You're listening to Scribble Talk, a podcast for bid and proposal professionals. My name is Bhaskar Sundaram, and with my co-host,
Ashley Case,
we will be sitting down with our industry veterans to share their stories, discuss their career, and learn how to make an impact in the industry.
Today's guest is Krystn Macomber. Krystn has more than 17 years of experience in various marketing and pursuit roles within the architecture, engineering, and construction industry. Her career has been dedicated to developing and implementing holistic marketing, sales, and pursuit processes that align with best practices to win work. She regularly serves as a trainer and workshop leader in her roles at work and throughout the industry, including for the Association of Proposal Management Professionals. Krystn serves as the marketing manager for Burns & McDonnell's California regional operations, where she is responsible for strategic marketing and pursuit efforts across the state. Krystn is currently serving a 3-year term for the APMP International Executive Committee as the Vice Chair, and past Chair. She previously served in various board of director roles, including Chapter Chair for APMP California, APMP Greater Midwest, and APMP National Capital Area chapters. In 2018, Krystn was selected as the APMP Bid and Proposal Industry Executive of the Year and recognized as an APMP Fellow, the organization's highest honor. Welcome, Krystn, to Scribble Talk. Great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
So Krystn, we'd like to start in the beginnings. We're always curious where our participants were born, where they grew up, and where they went to school.
All right, taking it way back, huh? So I was born in Detroit, Michigan, where my parents grew up. However, I only lived there for about 6 weeks before we relocated and moved down to Asheville, North Carolina, which is in the mountains of Western North Carolina. So I grew up there, spent my whole life there until it was time to go to college. And I'm a big fan of bigger cities, and the small town life was not my thing. So I was excited to get out and see the world. And I was recruited by a ton of schools to go play basketball. So I ended up going to University of Richmond in Virginia.
Yeah.
Which is, so that's where I went to college for my first 3 years, playing basketball there. And then decided to stop playing basketball and transferred back down to North Carolina, where I went to University of North Carolina at Greensboro, which is smack dab in the middle of the state. And they had a good business school. So that's where I finished up my college days.
Oh, wow. Well, Asheville is a beautiful place, but I can understand you wanting to go more to the city life.
It's much cooler and hipper now. Back in the 80s and 90s, it was not so exciting.
Yeah, I can imagine it has definitely evolved over the years.
Yes.
So you said you studied business. Was your first job in the business arena, or where did you first have your job after college?
Well, I didn't really know what I wanted to do because, like I said, the first 3 years were focused mostly on basketball, and school and classes were kind of secondary to that. So when I quit basketball and decided to transfer, I felt like business was a general degree that could kind of get me into whatever I wanted to down the road, but still had no idea. So when I graduated with a degree in business and I had a concentration in marketing, and so I ended up, it took me a while to find a job, actually, because it was back in 2003. So the economy and the market was a little slow. So I ended up working in like some sales positions for food service companies and customer service type roles for a little bit. And then I ended up relocating up to the DC area, which is where I eventually fell into this industry.
Oh, interesting. So your first role in the proposal world was in the DC area then?
Yep, it was in Northern Virginia, working for a very small woman-owned, family-owned architecture firm that mostly supported the federal government.
Okay, and you sort of stayed in that AEC kind of arena since then?
Yeah, I've been in it my entire 17 years now or so, and love it, and can't imagine anywhere else or doing anything else in any other industry.
Oh, yeah, it's I'm sure it's a very rewarding to be able to stay kind of in the same industry and be able to impact proposals and revenue growth and things of that nature, kind of in that same market, and really dig deep and understand it strongly.
Yep.
So before we dig more into kind of your proposal experience and your APMP experience, we're curious, what are 3 things that not many people would know about you?
Oh, the dreaded question. I've actually been thinking about this because I knew this question was going to come and I could never think of these things on the fly. So I came up with a couple things.
Okay.
So one of them, obviously now you know that I grew up in North Carolina, but what most people won't know or don't know about me is that I used to have a very strong Southern accent. And people say that I have it now from time to time. It comes out, every now and then. But I used to have a very strong Southern accent, like watching some home videos of me, like in high school. I mean, it's so embarrassing now. And I actually, when I went to college in Virginia, which was, north to me, coming from North Carolina, my teammates made so much fun of me because of my accent. And so I trained myself to remove it. So that's it's just a funny little story, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's one. And then I was a very goody two shoes growing up. I didn't drink. I didn't curse. I didn't do anything bad while I was in high school and growing up, and all of that kind of changed when I went to college. But I used to yell at my mother for like saying bad words, like growing up. I would get so offended. And now people that know me well know that I have a pretty bad potty mouth. So, and then lastly, some people know this, but I love Eminem, the rapper. It's just this weird obsession. I love everything about him, his music. I mean, I've seen him live a couple times, and just I love him.
Oh my goodness. So were you like obsessed with the 8 Mile movie?
I was, yes. It was a good movie back in the day.
Absolutely. Oh, that's great. So delving back into a little bit more of the proposal side, can you share with us the role of marketing in bids and proposals?
Sure. So in our industry, in the AEC industry, we kind of confuse marketing and pursuits a little bit. And my role kind of encompasses both in my current position, but really the marketing side is more about the upfront, pre-positioning and building your company's brand, and getting your subject matter experts out into the industry and recognized as thought leaders in their field, and really doing all of that sort of upfront positioning and branding efforts to, convince the clients ahead of time that we're the right firm and the right people for that project. And hopefully down the road, they can, either award us directly that project, or at least we've built that relationship enough to position us so that they, know that they have to choose us and want to choose us once it gets to the RFP and the proposal stage.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So essentially, that marketing role is really kind of the capture phase in the AEC industry.
Yeah, I mean, it's even a little bit before the capture phase, before we even know of a specific opportunity with that client. It's really just the general market understanding and awareness, and building our brand as, an expert and thought leader for the types of clients and projects that we are good at, so that down the road, when there is a real client and a real project, we've done that legwork to kind of build our brand and our reputation around that service offering.
Gotcha. So how do those marketing efforts help strengthen the capture process then?
So I think it does a lot of legwork to kind of position ourselves not only with the client, but also just internally, and having our strategy and team and everything built before the RFP comes out. I mean, just like all of us do in our industries, that's the goal, right? By the time the RFP is here, we're ready, and our strategies put together, our teams put together. So really, we just kind of look at it from a holistic perspective and a bigger picture perspective for every opportunity that we go after.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm sure you've worked on a bunch of different, proposals and strategic pursuits over the years. Do you have one that's most memorable?
Yeah, I mean, they're always memorable, because you put your heart and soul into all of them, and they take up such a good chunk of your time. But I'd say over the years, like there was a time in my life when I worked at a firm that did a lot of work for FEMA, so the Federal Emergency Management Association. And so I did a ton of proposals for FEMA around like disaster recovery after hurricanes and like Superstorm Sandy on the East Coast. And so those were kind of fun to really get into, and they were very complex, and there were, a lot of firms that were kind of positioning themselves as disaster recovery experts. And so my firm was one of them at the time. And so those were kind of interesting because it's just a different perspective. It's more of that human element too, because you're helping to rebuild communities and especially after natural disasters like that. So those are some that I really remember strongly, and feel, remember that passion that I had working on those with the team, because they were very collaborative, and the team, was very dedicated to that particular pursuit and that client.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And when you can feel connected to that mission, I think that helps even more.
Yes, exactly.
So that seems like it was a really interesting kind of proposal pursuit. Do you have any interesting kind of marketing campaigns that you've supported maybe in recent times?
Yeah, I mean, now we're kind of getting into the digital advertising space when it comes to pursuits. So we have a corporate marketing team that we work pretty closely with, that helps drive some of these initiatives. And so we identify, as part of our business plan each year, we identify target clients and key pursuits that we're positioning for throughout the year. And then we take it a step back and look from a marketing perspective, what can we do to, again, build our brand and position ourselves in the market for those opportunities that are going to come down the road. And so we've been doing some like social media, advertising, where we can target specific individuals at a client based on their, job title, and we can look them up on LinkedIn and know a little bit of how to target them and how to find them, so that when they're scrolling on LinkedIn or even other websites, our ads and our messaging and content pops up in their news feed or their on their screen as advertisements. And it's just a way to kind of keep our name and that messaging in front of them at all times. And ideally that messaging aligns with the win themes that they're going to see down the road in the proposal, so that it all kind of ties together. So we're really working on that these days and trying to leverage that technology and tools that our Marcom team has to help us position for some of those big must-win pursuits down the road.
Oh, wow. That's so fascinating how kind of detailed and targeted that you can make that marketing specifically in today's world of technology.
It's kind of creepy too. Like, I mean, and the cool thing is they don't know that they're being targeted, right? They just see it as like a promoted content or sponsored content. And, unless they know the tricks behind it, right? They just think, oh, that's just an ad that someone somewhere thinks that's relevant to me as I'm scrolling through Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever. And but the cool thing is, like, if they click on our ad and get directed to our website to download a white paper or, whatever the content may be that's relevant, then we can track everywhere they go after that. Like, we can see what they look at on our website and what they're interested in, and that helps us, inform our strategy and build our strategy. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, cool, and definitely a little bit creepy. I agree. So I understand you've also done some trainings over the years. Can you share a little bit with us about that experience and maybe some memorable efforts?
Yeah, so internally with Burns & Mac, my current company, I was hired to build our company's pursuit process and roll that out across our entire company, which when I joined the firm, we were at about 5,000-ish employees, and now we're close to, I think, 8,000. So we've grown substantially in 6.5 years. But I was responsible for rolling that pursuit process out and training everyone that touches pursuits, whether it's folks like us, proposal managers, or, subject matter experts, engineers, project managers, scientists, environmental folks, et cetera. So I went on a road show for many years and just did trainings and, kind of introduced them to the pursuit process, but also all of the best practices, like, down in the weeds, like how do you write an executive summary? What is an executive summary? What's good about it? What makes it good? So I did that internally for a couple years and really enjoyed that because I love kind of teaching the best practices and watching the light bulb turn on and folks thinking like, oh, that makes sense, and just working through that. And then for different associations, especially APMP, I've done a lot of different webinars or been Proposal Con, some chapter events, et cetera, and then just other associations, especially out here in California. I think you mentioned it in my bio, working with some small and diverse owned businesses out here in California. So that's a big initiative for all of our clients, because when they award a project to us, they often require that we spend, anywhere from 20 to 40% of the overall contract value with small businesses or veteran-owned businesses, diverse-owned businesses, et cetera. And so a lot of those folks are just 1 or 10 person shops that don't have proposal professionals, but they obviously have to win work. Right. So I've done some workshops and different training sessions to kind of help them along and help mentor them and show them some of the best practices that we follow as a big company.
Oh, that's amazing. And you're able to kind of impact those small and diverse businesses in such a major way and help them to continue to grow and win business. So amazing efforts there. So in terms of, any resources out there that there might be for improving marketing skills, are there any that you would recommend to listeners?
That's a good question. I think there's so many organizations and associations out there, so it just depends on kind of what angle you want to get into, whether it's more of the, the digital advertising side that we talked about earlier, or the PR side. There's another association that I belong to that's relevant for the AEC industry. It's called the Society of Marketing Professional Services, SMPS. So that's a good organization. They touch on proposal training a little bit, but not as deep as APMP does, obviously, but they're more focused on marketing and really geared towards professional services marketing, which is our industry. So that's a good resource.
Oh yeah, it sounds like an amazing one. In terms of, marketing tips, what would your top 3 marketing tips be to those trying to strengthen their marketing?
I'd say first and foremost, have a plan. And I know that's kind of basic, but it's often overlooked. And that's really a large part of my role in my current position, is just helping us build our business plan for the year and mapping that out. And not only, obviously down to the granular level of like what clients and targets and pursuits we're focused on for that year, but it's even taking a couple steps back and looking at the market as a whole and identifying, key trends and industry, new regulations that are coming, or whatever that looks like, and having an assessment of your firm's place in the market and where you see that potential and opportunity, and really doing a deep dive in that SWOT analysis and fully understanding the current circumstances so that you can then build your plan that you execute throughout the year. So that's something I think is often overlooked and really, really important to focus on.
Absolutely. And, it's the same with proposals, right? The plan is so critical. And if you don't have that critical first step, the rest of it's just not going to be effective.
Exactly. Yeah, because otherwise you're being reactive and you're not proactively, helping your team get ready for the big things that are coming your way, and really making sure that you have all of the right foundational elements in place to position your firm and be ready for those key pursuits that are coming.
Absolutely. So I understand, you have a perspective on maybe proposal managers versus proposal strategists. Can you tell us a little bit about what the differences between those two roles is?
Well, at our firm, it's merely sort of the career progression. So we have, I'd say 3 or 4, well, I guess 4 levels of proposal professionals. So you come in right out of school, new grad or entry level as a proposal coordinator. And that's where you're kind of shadowing and learning our business and learning our process. And then once you have, I think it's 4 to 8 or 4 to 10 years of experience, you get bumped up to proposal strategist. And that's where obviously you have some experience, you've got some pursuits under your belt, and you're able to to really lead your own pursuits. And then the progression from there is on to proposal manager, where maybe you're a very seasoned proposal professional, but you're not managing staff, you're just managing proposals. And then the final position in the career path here is pursuit strategy manager, where you're usually managing a team of proposal professionals.
Oh, very cool. That's an interesting progression. And it's so interesting to hear kind of how those progressions differ, maybe from different industries or even from company to company. But I like that structure.
Sometimes it's just a matter of terminology too. Like we call it pursuit strategist here, but other firms that I've worked at, we called it pursuit specialist. So it's just, every firm kind of has their own unique lingo that they use, and that's just what we came up with.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. And it's so great to have a career path, right? And sometimes those aren't as defined in other industries, even in proposals, So it's amazing that you guys have that so defined and have that progression and, a path for your employees to work towards.
Yeah, we've come a long way with that. We definitely did not have that when I started. Everyone was just kind of lumped in. Everyone was kind of, I think official titles were like marketing coordinator, even though a lot of folks didn't do any marketing. It was all proposals. So that was one of the first things that we looked at, is how can we better define the proposal professional route and pathway with our firm, and kind of separate it out from marketing professionals, because it's like I said, it's kind of two sides of the coin. And some folks like me have a role that crosses both pursuit and marketing side, versus, some folks are strictly on the marketing side and some are strictly just on the proposal side. So we kind of built both of those paths.
Yeah, it's amazing. So you're also very active in APMP. When did you first join APMP as a member?
It was probably 2007, I think, 6 or 7. So it's been quite some time. And I've been really involved since then. I've loved every second of it. It's a great association, and I've really enjoyed participating in all of my different roles and responsibilities throughout the years.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I can imagine. Can you tell us a little bit about some of those roles, with APMP California, the Greater Midwest, the NCA, and the Executive Committee?
Yeah, so I started, like I said, in 2007. So I lived in the DC area at that time. So I got involved with that chapter, and I think I joined a committee to start to kind of just dip my toes into getting more involved. So I did that for a couple years, and then ended up relocating over to Kansas City. So I got involved with the Greater Midwest chapter, and I think I had just signed up just as a member at first, and somehow I got connected. I don't remember how it began, but I got connected with Gabe Cabrera, who at the time was the chair of the Midwest chapter, but he was getting ready to relocate to Colorado. So he was trying to find a replacement, and I think I might have been on the board at the time, but he somehow asked me to take his spot as chair, and so I said, sure, why not? So I did, and that kind of started the progression of my leadership roles within APMP. So that was kind of cool that he kind of saw something in me and trusted me to take his position as chair, and kind of handed the reins over to me, and that was awesome. So I did that for a couple years, and then I think in 2014 maybe, I joined the International Board of Directors for the 2-year term. So that's where I got really involved with the international side of it. and started to learn a little bit more about the whole association, globally. And then got involved with some committees and ended up leading the chapter liaison committee for quite some time, all the way up until last year is when I finally stepped down from chair of that committee. So I don't remember how many years that was, but it was a while that I led that committee. And that's really the committee that's sort of responsible for being the liaison, like the name, between APMP International and all of the chapters. So helping to provide resources and tools and consistent, messaging and help and support to all of the chapters globally.
Oh, such a critical role.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and really helped me see kind of outside of my own chapters. I mean, even though I've been involved with 3 chapters, they're all in the U.S. first of all, so it got me some exposure to the international global side of APMP, which is really cool to see. And just helped me build my network and get more involved. And so then when I moved out to California, which has been almost 3 years ago, I got a call from someone on the current board and said, "Hey, we heard you're out here in California. Do you want to help our chapter?" So I ended up, they created a whole new position for me to join the board as the professional development director. So I had that position in the Midwest chapter, so they created it for me out here in California to help stand up and run the mentorship program for the chapter.
Oh, that's amazing. The mentor protege programs are so critical, and they really do help both the mentors and the proteges.
Absolutely. Yeah, I always say that the mentor should almost learn as much, if not more, than their mentees, because that's a successful partnership, in my opinion.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. So do you recall your first time participating at Bid and Proposal Con?
I do. So it was in Palm Springs, California, which is funny now that I live in California, because back then I lived in DC and living in California was not a thought in my mind. So I don't remember what year that was. It was probably like 2008 or 9 maybe. Or no, was that? Yeah, 8 or 9, I guess. I had to think about it for a second. But anyways, I went and just immediately fell in love, and like so many people on your podcast and just in general have said, like, oh my gosh, we found our people, like here's all my people. So it was sort of a light bulb moment for me again, and I made 2 friends. I've lost touch with them now, but I made 2 really good friends, and we ended up starting like a book club that we like mailed each other books, and they both lived in different parts of the country, and but they did proposals, and they were kind of the first 2 that I had sat down with at breakfast one day and just ended up making friends with. And so it's just stories like that make me love APMP even more.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing. And the connections that we make is something that I feel like is one of the most valuable things that the organization brings.
Yes, absolutely.
So you've spoken at many different conferences and events. Do you have any memorable presentations that stand out to you?
Well, it depends on if you're asking memorable good or memorable bad. I'll tell a funny story about the bad one. So the first time I ever spoke at Bid and Proposal Con was in 2013, I think, which was in Atlanta, if I remember correctly. And that was my first time really giving any sort of public speaking presentation. And I was so nervous. And it wasn't my presentation. It was someone else in my AEC industry that had put together the presentation, and I think she either lost her co-presenter, like they had to cancel on her, or she ended up wanting one, and so she asked me to be her co-presenter, and I don't even think I had ever met her in real life. We had connected on LinkedIn or something, I don't even remember. But anyway, so she asked me to be her co-presenter, and I mean, I practiced so much, and I was so nervous, and I told myself, like, as soon as you start talking, like, don't mess up your name, like, just get your name, get the first sentence right. And I did not do that. I messed it up. And it was people said that it was fine and they didn't really notice. But to me, because I'm a harsh critic on myself, it was really rough. So I I hated every moment of it, to be honest. And I feel
Oh,
like
no.
I did terrible. And I think I introduced myself instead of saying like, hi, my name's Krystn. I'm a proposal manager. I think I said like, hi, I'm Krystn. My name is proposal manager. I don't remember how it was, but it was all backwards and messed up and terrible and embarrassing. So I remember that for sure. But otherwise, almost all of my other presentations at the conference have been co-presenting with one of my colleagues here at Burns & Mac. And so we have a lot of fun, and we've got some repeat folks that come and find us every year and attend our session. And so that's been kind of fun to see. And it's always fun to present with someone that you work with and are friends with, and because we got a good thing going. So that's been fun to do.
Oh, absolutely. And it's really cool to have kind of groupies that follow you, right?
Yeah.
So you were one of the youngest to be nominated to be APMP Fellow. Can you tell us a little bit about, that honor?
I didn't know that I was one of the youngest. I don't feel that young. Yeah, so that was 2 years ago, I guess. So I was 36-ish. Which isn't really that young in my opinion. But yeah, I was completely blown away. I actually got nominated a couple times before that, but didn't get it. And so I just had written it off as, okay, it's not my time. Maybe, when I'm in my 40s, maybe that'll be the time. And so I had just totally written it off. And then sitting in San Diego at the conference, at the awards, I think it was a breakfast when they announced my name, and I was like just completely blown away. So I hold that as probably one of my biggest accomplishments, because I look at all of the folks that have won that award and recognition before me and even after me, and they're all such major players in this industry, and I'm just humbled to see my name, beside those names. So that was really exciting for me.
Absolutely. I can imagine. It is definitely a great honor, and you should be so proud.
Thank you.
So I think that this is a great segue into our kind of more lighthearted surprise rapid fire questions round.
Oh boy, here we go. Take it easy on me.
Exactly, Krystn, exactly. Maybe we'll start with a southern accent, Krystn. Because whatever I speak English, I don't think anybody kind of get me. But what's a southern accent? Maybe for listeners who are not from the States.
Well, when you grow up in the southern United States, you have a little bit of what's called a twang, and that's the best way to say it. If you ask me to say something in a southern accent on demand, I can't. It usually only comes out when I'm drinking, which I'm not right now because it's only 10 a.m., or when I'm mad, and I'm not right now. So.
That's brilliant. So you also mentioned that your favorite singer is Eminem. Do you have any memories of seeing Eminem live for the very first time on stage?
I do. So my sister and I both love Eminem. We always have. And so she, at the time, she lived in South Carolina, and I lived in Kansas City. And we flew all the way to Canada, to Vancouver, to then drive a couple hours north to what's called Squamish Valley, which is where there was a big festival, like out in the middle of nowhere, where he was the headliner.
Right.
And so we went to see him, and I like to describe that moment and that day as one of my best and one of my worst, because when we got there, so it was like a 3-day festival, I think. So we didn't go to like the whole festival. We didn't camp. We didn't like hang out there. We just went to see him for that night. And so everyone that had been there for 3 days already was very, they had been partying pretty hard, and we hadn't been. And so we were the only real sober ones. And the just trying to get up front to the stage to see him, even like an hour or two before he was supposed to go on stage, everyone was just sort of slammed together and packed together. And it ended up being this very crazy, a little scary, maybe a lot scary, sort of mosh pit situation where people were just like pushing and shoving, and they were not in their right minds, and I was not drunk enough to be able to deal with that. And it was kind of scary at one point, because like we were getting pushed so hard and I thought we were gonna die. But then he came on and it kind of calmed down a little bit, but everyone was really crazy at first, like trying to push themselves up to the front, and it was just, I don't know how else to describe it. It was terrifying but awesome.
Do you have a favorite Eminem song that's always in your playlist that you listen again and again?
I mean, I love almost all of his stuff. I don't really love like all of the like super early stuff, because it's kind of cheesy and kind of weird, and I don't know, I don't really like it. But I love, like, I mean, obviously his most popular songs are great, but I love like the softer side of him, and I say that like I know him, you know, like best friends. But I love some of his really slow songs, because like he's been through some real stuff, and like the way his words and just the way he puts it all together in a song with like amazing music, it's just, I mean, it's just mind blowing to me, and I don't know, I love it. I couldn't pick just one. I love it all.
Got you. I think you are lucky, because if you said your favorite song is, then my next question would be, do you want to sing maybe?
Oh God, no. No one wants that.
That's great. I mean, like basketball, I mean, like, you know, that's a kind of a full-fledged sports, Krystn.
Mm-hmm.
How long were you playing basketball?
Oh gosh, from 5th grade. I started in 5th grade, all the way through my junior year of college, officially. And then obviously when I left college, I didn't play for quite some time. I needed a break from it, and I don't really play anymore. I went in phases, like over the last like maybe 10, 15 years, where I would try to get back into it and pick it back up. But I'm a has-been, and I'm not very good anymore, and I'm not as athletic as I used to be. So it's very frustrating for me, because I remember how good I used to be, and I know that I'm not good anymore. So I'll end up just getting mad at myself, which isn't really fun for anyone. So I kind of stay away from it now.
Yeah. During the time that you were playing that, you know, the best version of Krystn, do you have a favorite male or female sports basketball star?
Well, I'm a big Duke fan, because, you know, growing up in the state of North Carolina, you either love Duke or you love the University of North Carolina. And I have a thing for Duke. So anyone that played for Duke, honestly, and Coach K is one of my heroes and idols. And so I just love everything about that school and their program and how they run it.
Got you. So you might not be playing, but do you still watch the sports every now and then, or it's just?
I do. Yeah, I watch. I definitely watch the Duke men's basketball team play almost every season. There's been some seasons in the past where I just kind of miss it, but for the most part, I watch almost every game. I sometimes build my schedule around the games. It's really hard living on the West Coast, following a school that plays on East Coast time, because their games are often at like 4:00 in the afternoon out here, and I'm still at work, and I don't have time to just stop and watch a 2-hour basketball game. So that's been a little tough since I moved out here, but no, I'm a loyal follower of them.
Got you. So again, pet corgi. So what's the name of your little dog?
Her name is Lulu.
Lulu?
Yes.
How old is Lulu?
She's about to be 7 in about 2 months.
Oh, wow. Okay. So if you could ask your pet Lulu 3 questions, what would they be?
Oh, gosh. Why? Just why? Why are you the way you are? She's awesome, and I love her to death. But so I just got married at the end of last year in October. Nice. And so before that, you know, it was just her and I, and we've always just lived together, the two of us. There's been people that have come in and out, but for the most part, it's just been her and I. And so she, when I met my now husband and we moved in together, she was like, who the hell is this guy and what is happening? And it took her quite some time to get used to him. And so we just laugh at her because she's so protective of me, and she, like, I am her only world, her whole world, you know, and she follows, now that I'm working from home, like she follows me around every second of the day. I am micromanaged every moment of the day by the corgi. And I just want to ask her why, like, just give me some space. Like, please just let me breathe. And I love her because she's so cute. But she's crazy.
Yes, I can imagine. I think that's lovely. You know, have that unconditional love that's thrown at you. It's amazing. So
it's a lot of love though sometimes.
So do you have any nicknames, Krystn?
I mean, growing up, my nickname playing basketball, everyone shortened my name to Krys, Krys. But no one calls me that anymore. Someone actually at work, we were IMing the other day, and he called me Krys because he just shortened my name for fun, and had no idea that like that brought up like so many memories for me. And I was like, whoa, this is weird. But before I got married, everyone used to call me KG because my last name was Gull, so my initials were KG. KM doesn't really have the quite the same ring to it, so I don't really have a nickname now. It's just Krystn, I guess.
Yeah, got you. So I think that's nice. So I know you write proposals day in and day out on marketing, but how about your handwriting, Krystn? Do you like your handwriting?
Oh, that's a good question. Sometimes, yeah, I can have very nice handwriting when I take time, but I'm always in such a hurry, so I just scribble and it's not so nice. So I don't know. It just depends, I guess.
Because at least you like it to a certain extent. That's pretty positive.
No one's ever asked me that, and I've never thought about that just ever. So that's an interesting question.
Yes, I think recently because of COVID, I do write a lot of letters, assuming people listen. So, and it's quite amazing. I think even many of the alphabets, you know, your spellings, it's very easy for you to type the spelling in the piece. But the same thing you write, you kind of mess up. I mean,
that's interesting. I never thought about that. That's a good point.
It's very interesting. So, okay. Are you afraid or scared of anything?
Other than spiders and snakes, maybe not. Those things terrify me. Yeah. But otherwise, I don't know, not really.
That makes sense. Do you have any quirky habits?
Quirky habits? I don't know. Gosh, that's a hard one.
No.
Not that I can think of off the top. I mean, if you ask everyone, they'd probably list like 20 things. But I don't know. I can't think of anything right now.
That's a good one. So I know you like travel. So what's the furthest place that you have ever traveled to?
Probably Dubai. I went there actually for work. When I worked at a different firm many years ago, I went there. I got to go there twice actually, because we were pursuing some work out there and had some meetings that I was lucky enough to be able to tag along to. So that's probably the farthest place. That was pretty cool.
So I know you've traveled to many places. Do you have any favorite place that brings you some memories?
So favorite place in the US is, everyone knows this that knows me, it's Seattle. So I've been there a lot, many times, and I'm obsessed with it. I love it. I want to live there. I wish that my company had a big office there, but we don't. And I've never for some reason been able to find a company that I wanted to work for that has a presence out there. So that's my favorite place in the US. But otherwise, internationally, I'd say Switzerland was really cool. I love mountains. So anywhere with big, beautiful mountains is my kind of place.
So if you could visit to any place in the world where you could stay forever, will that be Seattle or will there be any other place?
I'd say Seattle is definitely up there. But my husband and I are starting to talk about like where we're going to retire. Even though we still have a ways to go, but why not at least dream, and start to think about that. So he's a big fan of like Costa Rica or Mexico. So we've been talking a little bit about that. So I'd be cool with like some small little beach town where I could live in a, I mean, he'd probably want us to live in a shack that was, super affordable. I'd probably want to live in the opposite of that. But we'll see.
That's brilliant. So are you a morning person or a night person, Krystn?
Oh, I'm definitely a morning person. Definitely. I wake up at around 4 a.m. and I go to bed by 7 or 8 p.m. So that probably answers that question for you.
Yeah. So is it been always the case, or is it something that you build up over the years?
I'd say it's probably always been the case, but not as drastic as maybe it is now. I don't remember waking up at 4 a.m., in my early days. I mean, I had to for college, like for basketball, we had to be at the track by 5 a.m. for practice and stuff, which was terrible. And I hated it, which is crazy now that I do that for fun. I mean, I don't go to the track. I wake up early. I do not go work out at 4 a.m. So I don't know, always maybe just not as crazy or drastic as it is now.
Yes, I mean, like the one other person who said that was John Williams. So he also wakes up like 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
That's great. So who is your best friend, and tell us about him or her?
That's a good question, because as you get older, your friends, I don't know if your best friends kind of change or friends just in general evolve. So probably my best friend that I've had for a long time, her name's Amelia, and we grew up playing basketball together, even though we've never lived in the same city. We were both from North Carolina, but we lived in opposite ends of the state, which is a long state if you've ever seen the state of North Carolina. But we got selected to play on like a junior international team together. And so we met there for the first time way back when we were in high school, and just became the best of friends since then. And she's probably my longest friend that I regularly or semi-regularly keep in touch with throughout all these years. But otherwise, probably my husband. I mean, I spend the most time with him, obviously, and he's my kind of go-to for everything, advice-wise, and just guidance and love and support.
Wow, that's very powerful, though, to say your husband as your friend. I mean, like that's
yeah. Well, if you're not friends, then you might have other issues.
But it's very interesting, I mean, like husband always comes up maybe in the last round where we talk about gratitude and stuff. But this is very unique response, Krystn. I think your husband is so lucky to have you. Let me tell you.
I'm lucky to have him.
Oh, nice. So name one thing that drives you crazy.
Oh, I'd say just lack of attention to detail. Like I'm very detailed. And so when people are just like a little chaotic and there's not like a consistent process, or like things are just all over the place like that, I have a real hard time living in that world, because I'm very structured and organized, and like process is very important to me, and that's how I kind of live my life, at least at work. And so I struggle with the other end of the spectrum.
Got it. What is one trait you really like about yourself?
I really like that I'm impulsive, and maybe that's not always a good thing, but I make decisions very quickly, and they're usually the right decisions, and if they're not, then I find a way to make them the right decisions. And I think that's something that's kind of guided my career and my life. I've moved across the country a couple times now, and those have been pretty quick, what some would say impulsive decisions, where I just decided, okay, sure, I'll go there, I'll move there, without really having a foundational plan or anything in mind. It's just like, okay, sure, let's do that. So I think that's something that I like about myself.
Who is the kindest person you know?
The kindest person I know. I would say a couple people come to mind. I work with some really awesome people that are just really great people that inspire. And she's my current boss, but she just got promoted to our chief administrative officer. So she is moving on. She moved back to Kansas City actually a couple months ago, and so we're working to find her replacement. But she's an amazing leader, and has given me so much in just the 3 years that I have been out here in California. And she was a large reason that I moved out here, so that I could work for her, because in our industry, women, it's hard to find women, and then women leaders at that, who really make their way all the way to the top of our industry, because it's a very male dominated industry. So just being able to work for her for almost 3 years and learn from her. And she's so smart and so kind, and just, respectful, and everyone respects her. And so I think her name's Renita.
That's great. Who are the people who have been the most influential in your life and career?
So I'd say Renita for sure. I mean, even though I've only worked for her for 3 years, she's really shown me a lot. I mean, I'd say when you work in the same kind of field for 17 years now, you you master your job, right? You know what to do in your job. I know how to do my job very well. But she kind of showed me more of the business side, and even more of the financial side of how she runs our office and our company out here in California. And so being able to see that side of our company and our industry and our business, and being able to learn from her, that's been really awesome to be able to do. And then I think, growing up, my parents, even though I didn't always like it in the moment, they very much instilled hard work and discipline. And my dad used to, take me to a driveway and tell me, run up and down it 25 times, or make 100 shots, baskets, and practice. And I hated it in the moment, don't get me wrong. And I probably was such a jerk to my parents. I know I was, but they showed me why it was important to work hard, and why it was important to have goals and work towards those. And that has kind of been the foundation for my whole career, really.
That's brilliant. Yeah. What have you observed lately that reminded you that people are good?
Oh, that's a good question, because it's a crazy world out there right now. I'd say the first thing that comes to mind, so yesterday we had a 6-hour APMP International Board of Directors meeting. And while it was the longest Zoom call any of us had probably ever been on. It was a very long time. But it was awesome. I mean, we had an awesome discussion. We had great ideas, and there's some really cool stuff coming that I'm excited about, that we talked about yesterday. So just watching some of the greatest minds get together and put their brains together and come up with ideas for us to move our association and our industry forward was really cool to see yesterday.
That's brilliant. So last question from me. Who haven't you seen or talked to in a long time, and you hope that they are doing okay?
I'd say probably my friend Amelia. I have not seen her in, I don't even know, 6 years, maybe 7. It's been a long time. And we randomly text every now and then, but having not seen her for a long time, and she just went through some family stuff with one of her brothers being ill, and she has a special place in my heart, and not being able to see someone that you've known for so long, I miss her, and I hope, I know she's doing okay, but I hope she is, and be nice to see her and give a hug.
Oh, that's so powerful. Thank you, Krystn.
All right, Krystn, we're down to our final questions for you. It's been amazing hearing about your journey and all of your accomplishments. Looking back, what advice would you have wanted to give to your younger self before you entered the workforce?
That's a good question. The first thing that came to mind was have more of a plan. But when I really think about it, I'm probably okay with the fact that I didn't have a plan because it worked out pretty okay for me. So just being strong and confident in who you are, and even if you don't know who you are or what you want or where you want to go at the time, just keep taking those steps as they come, and always say yes. That's always been my philosophy. And I think some people get so hung up in, well, it's not the right time, or I don't know, instead of just embracing the opportunity that you get and, latching onto it in some cases and just hoping for the best and trusting yourself that it'll all work out. Because that's kind of what I've seen. I've been really lucky and very grateful for all of my impulsive decisions that have led me, to where I am today.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes you just need to follow your gut, and sometimes, that'll lead you to amazing places.
Exactly.
So what's the best piece of advice that you've received, and who gave it to you?
Let's see, there's probably a recent discussion that comes to mind with my boss, Renita. I tend to, like I said, I have a process. I'm very structured and organized, and, I know what needs to get done, and I know that we need to get there sometimes as soon as possible. But she's an engineer, and I'm not an engineer, right? And I work in the engineering industry, so I work with engineers all day, every day. And for the most part, I've learned to get along very well with engineers, and my personality matches very well with theirs. But I'm very, what she would call impatient and demanding at times. And so she sat me down at some point last year, and I don't even remember how we got into the conversation, but she was just like, you need to let people breathe. Like you need to just calm down a little bit. And that's really hard for me because, again, like I know what we need to do, and I just want to get there so we can move on to the next thing. But her point was very well taken, and I've really had to kind of force myself to remember that, because not everyone works at the speed or the pace that I do, and not everyone thinks the same way I do. That would be scary if they did. So I think just that kind of calm down and take a moment, let everyone else have a moment, because it's fine. Everyone can take a moment to think about something. It's not that big of a deal. I think that was something that kind of very much stuck with me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's something, a lot of us can take that to heart and really just breathe and let people do things on their time.
Exactly.
So you've been involved with professional development committees through APMP, and I'm sure elsewhere. What advice would you give to, those younger professionals out there wanting to pursue a successful career, one maybe sort of like yours?
I'd say get involved. Even though you may feel like you don't have enough experience or the right type of experience or expertise or whatever, I've always been a big fan that it's not about the number of years of experience you have. It's what that experience has meant and what you've learned and what value you can add. So I think some people are, scared to get involved with APMP or join a committee or a board because they feel like they're not at that level yet. But really, it's not about that. It's more about what you're bringing to the table and what value you can show and bring. And the more involved you get, the more you give to this association, the more you're going to get back. And that's something that, I've seen with myself, with other people that I've encouraged to get involved and watched now their career grow because of that. So biggest thing is just get out there, get exposure, get involved, and put yourself in an uncomfortable place to then help yourself grow.
Oh, that's great advice. All right, our last question for you is, what's something you're looking forward to in the future?
Getting my nails done and my hair. I know that sounds so crazy and vain, but living in this COVID world where we've been cooped up in our apartments, and I need a pedicure so bad. It's just not even funny. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm actually going to visit my sister in Denver. She lives there now, for my birthday next month. And so I just booked an appointment to get nails done because they're starting to open up down there. And so nail salons are opening, versus here in California, everything's probably going to be shut down for another couple months. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take advantage of getting a pedicure.
Absolutely. I think so many of us can relate to that. You know, I have been wanting a massage for what feels like half a year now.
That sounds good too. Now that you say that, I might book that too.
Wow. Oh, Krystn, that's amazing. Krystn, is there any part of your life or career that we haven't touched, Krystn, that we could spend maybe a couple of minutes on?
The only thing really is I forgot to talk about my current role with APMP International, right. Being the vice chair this year, and then next year I'll be the chair, and then the past chair. So that's something that is really exciting for me and important, and part of my mission is to help bring awareness to this career path. And so I have a little committee right now where I'm working on a project to figure out what that looks like. And so many of us fell into this career path accidentally, and we didn't go to school to be a proposal professional. We didn't even know what that was. And so just finding a way that we can raise awareness and make it an intentional career path where people intentionally go to school to be a proposal professional, and that's mm-hmm. their goal and their career path, and figuring out how to make that happen for us, for our association, and just the industry in general.
That's brilliant. Definitely, we'll be so looking forward to all the great things that you're going to do, Krystn. Mm-hmm. So good luck.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, Krystn, for your time today. It's really been a privilege to have you with us at Scribble Talk. Wish you all the good health and happiness. Please continue to inspire bid and proposal colleagues and everybody around you. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, and do look after yourself and everybody around you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Please visit batchuscribble.com/podcast to listen to this episode and check out any of our other previously recorded episodes. If you've enjoyed today's interview, don't forget to subscribe, review, and share the Scribble Talk podcast. We hope you'll check out our next episode where we interview another industry expert and special guest. Until then, it's Ashley Kays,
Bhaskar Sundram,
signing off.